Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, hosted by Renita Ray Davis, licensed clinical social worker, board-approved social work clinical supervisor, and facilitator of the Goddesses of Social Work supervision community. Join us as we travel through the social work journeys told by the Goddesses of Social Work community members, past and present, as they make their way toward clinical licensure.
Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis, and I'm here today with Monica Barnes. Monica Barnes is a 2005 graduate of Troy University with a bachelor's in human services and a minor in sociology. She has worked with different groups of people throughout the field of social work, from inpatient and outpatient, children to families, and now the aging population. Her training includes mental health, foster care, adoption, dementia, state health insurance programs, and caregiving. Monica is currently the Alabama Cares Coordinator at Central Alabama Aging Consortium, covering 3 counties providing free services to caregivers. You can find Monica at various community events providing outreach and resources. Monica believes in the words of Shirley Chisholm, service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. Welcome to the show, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here.
Yeah.
Monica, I love reading your bio. There were a couple things that stood out, but I'm going to zone in on the fact that you have a minor in sociology. I love sociology. Before changing my major to social work, I had a major in sociology and I was 5 credit hours before graduating. And I remember what I loved about that particular major. And I'm curious, what do you love the most about your minor in sociology?
I think it's just learning about people. And once you get into it, you realize that people are people and everyone is the same across the board. I mean, socioeconomics standards, where you're rural or urban or metro, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, like it is the same across the board.
Absolutely. Literally said that yesterday. People are people.
Yes.
And we're going to get into your story in regards to how you're now with the aging population, but I bet you see that even more so, like people are people, especially in that particular population.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Monica, what did you want to be when you were growing up, or who did you most want to be like when you were growing up?
Okay. So professionally, I wanted to be a judge. I don't know why. I think maybe because I'm the only girl. I want to be a judge. The person I want to most be like was Claire Huxtable from the Cosby Show. I mean, Claire could do it all, right? She was beautiful. She could sing. She could dance. She spoke another language. She was, commanding. Right. I mean, and she did it all looking beautiful. Now, I didn't know anything about makeup and, the power of Hollywood and studios at the time, but I just loved everything about Claire, right? Even when she was strict, it still was a lesson in everything that she did. And Claire was just overall, she was it for me. I just wanted to be Claire Huxtable.
I love that. And Felicia Rashad is still out here killing it, isn't
Yes.
she? Oh my
Yes, she
gosh,
is.
so beautiful. Both her and her sister. I think that's so cool, Monica, because you wanted to be a judge, and then Claire Huxtable was an attorney.
Right.
And so those two match up. But but what got me was I wanted to be a judge, maybe because I was the only girl. Like, how did those two things go together?
Well, I have brothers, and
Uh-huh.
I'm in the middle, and one's 9 years older than me, one is 5 years younger. So, basically, I, kind of rough and tumble a little bit because again, I'm the only girl, but no one wants to play dolls with me, and it's like you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that, and I don't know, just a judge.
Look, do you work with judges now? Have you had
Somewhat
to?
when we have different outreach panels and whatnot, or we'll invite them in and they'll invite us in. I really work closely with the judicial system, excuse me, when I work with children because we had a lot of disciplinary boards and it did include judges and DAs in that
Is
capacity.
that work that you would still want to do after having worked with them?
I think so because I consider myself boots on the ground.
Mm,
And because once you've done a job, it's easier to do a policy because you know what's needed.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That was such a profound statement. First, as soon as you said boots on the ground, I was like, where your fan at? Couldn't help it.
Yeah.
But yes, where's your fan? And then second, that is, I am a policy girl. I love policy, and I talk to social workers all the time because a lot of folks want to go straight into the one-on-one. Like, I just want to help people, and I get it. I love that for us, right? We want to help people, but when you've done the work in the trenches and you're realizing this policy at the agency level, at the community level, or even at the federal level is the thing that's dictating how you provide that one-on-one service, that changes it for you. You're like, yeah, I could touch one-on-one people, but if I can change policy, then I'm making a bigger impact and a bigger difference.
Mhm.
And so do you get to do policy work?
Um, Not really. We're asked our opinions and what we think about it, but we're not the ones who are actually writing it. Um, but I always participated. When they ask the question, I'll answer, but I don't actually get a chance to write it.
That's all right. You're still making an impact. And I've moved on to like, what are you doing? We don't even know what you're doing yet. So I'm like, I've moved ahead, but yet you're still making an impact. And I actually appreciate that they're asking you,
Thank
right? They're
you.
not
Yeah.
just because a lot of times we do feel there does feel like the separation between the people who are creating the policies and the people who actually are implementing the
Right.
policy.
Right.
And so the fact that they're asking your opinion is important.
It is. And I have a great state coordinator. She's very, okay, what is this? And we're like, okay, this is what we have. This is not working. But again, everyone has someone above them. So, it's only so much we can do, so much she can do, and someone above her and someone above that person.
This is not a political podcast, but I want to say this, especially since our main audience is social workers and people in the helping profession. I remember um, when it was 2008, 2009, when the Great Recession hit, and I had been writing grants for the particular job I was working like for 2 or 3 years. And then that year, the grant that I wrote didn't get funded. I had kind of got used to this grant, and that was my salary. It was the grant for my salary didn't get funded. And that's when I realized, oh, it's not just agency based, it's, state and federal based. And I need to be paying attention to who we got in those seats if I want to keep my job. Do you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. I don't think people realize the importance of, and again, not to get political, but your local politics. That affects your day to day more than your every 4 year, vote. But your day to day politics, your local politicians, these are the ones who do receive funding and say, "Hey, we're going to give this organization an additional $50,000." Because for the most part, all agencies work on a budget, right? Under this budget, we have these constraints, these caps. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. Well, if someone donates money to you, now you're outside of that box. So you could do more things than what you couldn't do. So I don't think people realize that when you donate, whether it's $5 or $10, and most of the times it is a tax deductible donation, those 5 and 10s, they add up. And then that allows for someone to say, oh, hey, well, we can go put a ramp on Mr. Jones' house. Or we can go and pay this transportation service to take them back and forth, to the doctor. So, there are things, and I just think people don't realize like everything counts and everything really affects each other from all aspects, from local to federal.
Completely agree. I completely agree. And before we get into your journey, I want to, because you're bringing up some amazingly beautiful, strong Black women. You already brought up Shirley Chisholm. Now you brought up Claire Huxtable. I see her as Felicia Rashad. But in what ways do you feel like you have become Felicia Rashad as an adult?
That's a very good question. Well, I'm not a partner in my law firm. Unlike Claire. But
But
I
you
think
are.
what I did learn and something that I implement is that balance. And that is the balance between work, parental, friendship, and my marriage. And it's just a balance. And that is something that she did have. Claire had girlfriends. Claire
Mhm.
had times that she spent with in the 5 children, right? She had times where she spent with them. She had times where she spent with her husband, time where she wanted to go away for herself. So that is something that she did, something that I do. I take mental health days. I mean, you have to take it, you have to learn to listen to your body. And I've learned that you don't want to wait until you really need to take it, right? Because from what I've seen and what I'm seeing, is younger people who are now having massive strokes and hemorrhages and aneurysms. But it's the stress. And I have a great director. She's like really into like, hey, take time for yourself. And I've been fortunate enough to have good directors who always preach that. But a lot of times we don't actually take that. Well, I take it.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. And that I was writing a note, but I was,
Okay.
thinking, how blessed are you that you have a director who's like, take your mental health
Mhm.
days. So many folks, they like, I had someone recently tell me that they had to take their days off because their employer used to let them just collect, 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 and
Mhm.
now they capped them, and she was forced to take a week off. And I even saw recently, she ended
Mhm.
she had a good week off, thankfully. But I
Yes.
saw recently this Instagram post, some famous Instagrammer, I think, I don't know her name, but she said she signed off her last Instagram post was, I'm tired. And she was forced to kind of take some vacation time, and she ended up, passing away.
I
But
saw that.
you saw that, I
I
felt like that
did.
was pretty popular post, but
Yeah.
the storyline behind that is, go ahead and take your days off
Right.
because you don't want to be forced, and then your body doesn't even know what to do with it
Mm-hmm.
when you actually do take your days off. And so for Claire Huxtable to teach you that so early on, like you probably didn't do it at first, but now you're like, no, I
Yes.
gotta take my days off. And to have a director who's pushing that agenda, that is such a blessing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, Tell me a little bit about your professional journey, Monica. How did you get here? Where do you want to go? And I mean, like, how did you even know to get a bachelor's in human services and a minor in sociology? How did you end up at Troy? All that. I want all of it.
Oh, how did I end up at Troy? It was not my first choice. My first choice was Spelman. And yeah, wanted to be a Spelman woman. And Spelman was not very generous with their financial contributions, if you know what I mean. Spelman is a very expensive college, and what they gave, it was just it was not enough to buy books at the time. I mean, it's an expensive college, great school, but very, very, very expensive. And I just chose. I like the campus. It was small. It wasn't, even though well, the town that I'm from is about 20 minutes from Auburn. And Troy wasn't as big as Auburn. So I did want to go away to college, but I didn't want to go to a college that was like so huge. And although Troy's grown tremendously from when I was there, it wasn't as large. And I liked it. It was far away from home, but not too far that I could call home or get home, when I needed to. So that's how I ended up there.
And how did you? Congratulations. I like Choice. Choice campus is very beautiful,
Mhm.
actually. So, and yeah, you're right. It has grown a lot in the last 20 years. But how do you end up with the major in human services?
Um, just just taking the pre-req courses initially, the first 2 years, just getting all of those out of the way. And then once I got into my junior year, uh started looking at the pre-law classes, and I was like, yeah, I don't like this. Then I started looking at, okay, well, maybe I want to be an archaeologist, and then just taking just different classes. And then once I kind of got into actually my minor classes first, which was sociology, and then I looked to see, and I discussed with my advisor, And she's like, okay, well, you're taking these classes. Well, these classes will count for these for this discipline. So then from there, I was looking at social work, and then I was looking at human services. And then social work had a lot of statistic classes and economic classes. And I
You're
said,
right.
I don't want to take those. So I want to do this job, but what it was close to it. And then it was human services. So that's how I settled on human services as opposed to social work.
I love that. And you're right. I remember in my undergraduate, because I did get my BSW, I had to take that stats class. I feel like I'm exaggerating when I say 3 times, but it might have just been two. But
No,
I know I
I
failed.
took it once and I failed,
Yeah, I
and my
failed it.
daddy was
Yeah.
very upset, and he was like, are you going to
Mm,
class? And I was like, Daddy, you can talk
hmm
to the professor. I'm on the front row.
hmm
Hey, I tip my hat to social work. I don't think people realize like social work is hard. It is a
Yeah.
very hard degree.
Yeah, thank you, Monica, for acknowledging that. Because I'm
Yes.
like, I don't know. I might. It's been a long time because I graduated in '98, but I feel like I had to take statistics at least 3 times, but it might have just been twice. But it was a hard one to get through. But Monica, when you said, I'm like, oh my God, are we kindred spirits? Because not only did my original major was sociology, but I also loved archaeology, like loved archaeology. And here you are, not only with your minor in sociology, you also had a love for archaeology. So of course I got to go there. Like, what was it about archaeology that you liked so much?
I think it was more so the professor.
Ah, really?
I cannot recall his name, but he was just so passionate about it, and it wasn't boring. Like it was a great. I got an A in archaeology in
Mm,
my class, and I was like, well, maybe there's something I could do. And I'm like, well, what can I do with it?
yeah, yeah.
What can you do with it? I mean, there are things, but it was like, okay, well, what can I do with this? Now, mind you, my daddy is he has a his undergrad is in business and math. And I'm like, okay, now how can I sell my daddy on archaeology? So, but he was a great professor. I mean, he really was, and I did enjoy the classes.
Awesome. You know what? This is the second time you brought up your dad, and I love that energy. And so it sounds like you came from a family that valued education. And
Yes.
and there was, I asked you how you get to Troy, but it sounds like you were in a family that you were going to college. We
Mhm.
didn't know what your major was going to be, but you were going to college. And you want to speak to that family you grew up in?
Yeah, sure. My dad is first generation college graduate in his family, and he was the first for probably about 40 years. My grandmother, his mother, they grew up in a time where it was the read and write arithmetic. But somehow she managed to send 2 kids. He and my aunt are both college graduates. My mother, she didn't attend college, but she was very much hands-on. We started school. She was a stay-at-home mother. We started school reading and writing. It was reading this book, it was writing this, it was learning that. You remember a time when like there was a travel channel, right? You learned about places. This is how you read a map. I mean, so they were very hands-on in everything. We were in all type of activities, small town, but whatever was offered, we were there. And they push education to us because my dad was like, basically, I'm not raising any dummies. His word, not mine. But they push education, and it was never what you're not going to do. It basically was, you're going. So it's like, where are you going?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love that. And you know what? Again, I'm feeling like such kindred spiritness with you right now because literally this weekend I was thinking about my love of reading. I mean, I'm reading all the time. I just finished Maria Shriver's I Am Maria, and she had a list of books. She didn't list them, but within
Mhm.
the storytelling of that book, she mentioned certain books. And so, of course, I ordered them. So not only did I read I Am Maria, now I'm reading what she has read. And I often in doing that, and I was curious, I'm like, where did this love of reading come from? So I was texting my mama, and she
Mhm.
was like, because we came from Colorado to Alabama, and then I went to private school, and then I went to public school. And in both of those transitions, I was already always ahead, like what you're talking about. I was
Mhm.
always ahead of whatever, the other students. And it was because my mama would make us read after school every single day and including in the summertime.
Mhm.
And I think as a kid, I used to be like, oh my God, I have to read. But now I'm like,
Mhm.
reading is everything to me. And I couldn't imagine a life without reading. And so just to be able to shout out our parents, like, thank you for instilling in us this
Yes.
love of learning. And that's what it sounds like your parents
Yes,
did for
I,
you.
I am a forever learner.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
something I can appreciate about the different colleges, how they offer these CEUs or just a certificate or in this, or just taking a class about whatever, that they actually offer those to the community.
Yeah. And you know what I used to say? I love that too. And Illuminate Expressions, who we are, we offer free CEUs for Alabama social workers. But you know, social work competency number one is we are going to always be lifelong learners,
Mhm.
and so you don't just go to college and get your degree. You have to stay in that learning energy. And so the fact that we're lifelong learners is awesome. So yay, good. All right, darling. Oh, we're still on your professional journey. So we got you through college. And then you say that you have so many different experiences. Like you worked in inpatient, outpatient, and now you're with the aging, but you also have training in mental health, foster care and adoption, dementia, state health insurance program, and caregiving. I'm curious, like, you sound like me. Every few years, I was in a different population.
Well, you kind of move around. So,
Yeah.
I went to graduate school for counseling, community counseling. And something one of my professors said, and I really wish schools would do this, give you your internship, your practicum at the beginning, as opposed to the
Mhm.
end. So, I'm taking the classes, I've done a few practicums and the internships, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't like this. I don't want to counsel. So that's where, it came with working with the children, the inpatient. It was an inpatient facility, and then I did outpatient mental health counseling with children. And then I realized, like, I don't like this. And it was not the kids. It was just, I just didn't like counseling. It takes a special person to be a counselor. And that was just not for me. I love the kids. I did love the work. But one thing I don't like about it is when you are a children's counselor, you only deal with the child. Well, they don't want you to deal with the family. So it doesn't matter what you do with the child if they're returning home to the same home environment. So it's children counseling, not family
I
counseling.
hear you.
So,
Hmm.
essentially, you're just in a cycle, because even if you bring the parents in, they're not listening to you. They're not implementing any of the suggestions. So it's like, basically, here's my kid, fix them.
Right. Hmm.
So that was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Tired of counseling. So then I was still in Alabama, and from there I went to work for Georgia Department of Family and Children Services, which is like Alabama DHR. And that's where I got into foster care, and then we did adoption, and then a relative care. And that, I think that one just really just kind of threw me in, because now you're dealing, before, yeah, I dealt with the courts, but now, no, you're going to a hearing. You are on the stand. You are being questioned about your notes that you wrote. And I had a good group of ladies around me that trained me very well, older case managers. And my particular county was, they really pushed training. And one thing that they gave me, and I still use it to this day, I took a case narrative training, and I still use some of the tools, what I can't remember, what I can remember from then. It's a great training tool, because what you don't realize is that, and some people don't, when you work for the state, you could be subpoenaed for a case. They will subpoena your notes. What do your notes say? How does it read? If you misspell a word, they will call you out on the stand. And it's all of these things. So they were always really pushing for us to, like, take these training to make us better case managers. And it really did. It was great.
That's so good. It sounds like you've had some really good directors and really
Mhm.
good just to
Yeah.
be able to mold you and bring you up in this profession. And you talking about the case narrative training, what I was thinking of when we were talking about
Mhm.
our love for reading and learning is one of the things I still tell people because the guys at social work actually has a book club. Everybody's welcome. So if you were
Okay.
reading Tarana Burks and Brene Brown's You Are Your Best Thing right now.
Okay.
And so, but one of the reasons we have a book club is because I say to social workers and to anybody who has to write case notes, if you read, you can write well.
Hmm.
And just how you said the lawyers and the judges and whoever has to read your notes, they're going to call you out. And then that taints your expertise if you
Yes.
don't have a word spelled right. But if you haven't ever seen that word before, and I've
Mhm.
seen this, someone you can tell they had never seen the word, but they were using the word and writing it. But reading allows you to expand your vocabulary. And so
Yes.
it doesn't have to be you're reading textbooks. You just
Hmm.
read just for the sake of reading, just so that you can write better. But I also like that idea of the case narrative uh, CEU or certificate that you took. And I hope that's still available because that sounds awesome.
It was, I don't even know if they offered through two other entities
Mm-hmm.
across the state, but for defects workers, they most definitely had a case narrative training. They had actual previous case narratives that were put on the board, and you're like, wait, someone graduated college and wrote this. And then again, when you have an opposing attorney reading your notes, they're like, okay, well, what did she really, did the case manager really do this? Or did it really taints, like you said, it taints your testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And you are on a stand and you are testifying, and they will read it. They will read everything.
And
And it
make
could be
you feel
like just,
bad.
just one day you're
Yeah.
off and your note is off, and it will just desecrate everything else that you've ever written.
Mm-hmm. So
Yes,
writing well is important in this profession.
absolutely.
And one easy way to learn how to write well, in my opinion, is through reading. So we just want to encourage
Yes.
people to read as much as possible so that you can write well. And you don't even have to just be with defects. You could be in private practice like me, or you could be at the hospital setting. I have a social worker now who, she's reaching out for consultation, and she's a clinical social worker now, but she's in a hospital setting, and some of her stuff might get subpoenaed. And you can be
Mhm.
in all the different settings, not just
Yes.
DFACs, and your work get subpoenaed. So learning how to write well can make you feel better as a social worker, a case manager, or helping professional, especially if you're just someone who writes notes for billing to help clients. So we want to encourage reading.
Yes. I'll tell you something. My
Mm-hmm.
first supervisor at Defects told me, and probably like my first week on the job, she said, Monica, if you lie, I can't help you, and you're on your own. If you didn't do it, we can work through it. But if you lie, you are on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with the actual, I'm like with the actual word, again, with your narratives, if you did not do it, don't say you did, and you definitely don't want to write it that you did.
And our code of ethics say that too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So following your ethical code is important. I wrote down a couple other things
Okay.
about what that part of your journey. I was thinking because we do have social workers who are in Georgia who are part of our community, DFACs and DHR.
Mhm.
They're the same thing. But one of the things I think very strongly, one, I always tip my hat to those of you who worked at DHR or DFACs because you talking about it takes a special person to be a counselor. I think it takes a special person to work at DFACs or DHR, and that you guys do not get your flowers enough. And so I just want to pause and be like, I literally have chill bumps. Thank you, because that is a special kind of work to work with whether you're working with children, you're working with
Mhm.
the elderly population, or the whole community itself is served by those who work in those spaces. And so I want to just say thank you. And I also want to just acknowledge if you can work at DFACS or DHR, you can work anywhere.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So thank you. I just want to
Thank
pause and say
you.
thank you for doing that work. And it sounded like you did a lot of different types of work
Yes.
while you were at DFACS. And thank you for your supervisors wanting you guys to be the best that you could be by offering you trainings and courses and giving you real life supervision. So I just wanted to pause and just say thank you to the DHR workers, the DFAC workers, the DYS workers, all the department of somebody
Yes.
workers, because we know that that is a special group of people who do that work. And then the second thing I wrote down was at the beginning of this, you said your counseling professor said that internships or field placements need to be at the beginning
Yes.
of it, because people will go through 1 or 2 years, depending on, what that degree, because, we have advanced standing in social work, but mostly a 2 or 3 year degree, get to the end and get to their internship and their field placement. And like, what the heck is this? Because what you do in the real life situations versus what's in the textbooks or in the classrooms are not the same. And I used to think of it as this is when the pavement hit the road, whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
But to have it in the beginning, at least one or a partial one, so that
Yes.
you can figure out if this is something that you want to do or not. I think that is so smart. That is so smart.
Yeah. I think he actually tried to do that at Troy, but it's a system. It's set up across the board, all the universities, you do it at the end. And he really was trying. He was like, I don't even understand it. I really wish they wouldn't, because you would have people who were like, oh, I don't want to do this counseling. Maybe I want to go into school counseling. Well, you are
done
at the
invested.
end.
Yeah. You done invested 2 years, a lot of time, effort, and money. And now
Yes.
you're at the end. And unfortunately, because I was in academia, that's when people get weeded out. Really,
Yeah.
that is when people get weeded out, and they've invested so much money and time into this thing, and can't successfully finish an internship or a field placement, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And so I appreciate his efforts in doing that, but I'm glad that you had that experience so that you can see, oh yeah, that's not what I want to do.
Right.
Because I remember in my undergrad internship, my BSW internship, I worked with children at the Boys and Girls Club. And I remember thinking, this is not my ministry. Children are not my ministry. Yeah. And so it helped me to know because I still could be a social worker, but I did, when you think about social work, sometimes you think about you working with children, but social work is so much broader than just working.
It is. And I don't think the universities do a good enough job explaining that, right? You could be a military social worker, you could do clinical. I mean, it's very, very broad, and they really just kind of push you towards, okay, you're going to go work at DHR, or you're going to go work at DYS. You could be a hospital setting social work. It's so much, but
yeah,
they don't really push. I don't think they do a good enough job just educating students about that.
I hope that this podcast is helping with that, because you are episode 79, I think, for me.
Okay.
And so I'm hoping we have at least 15, 20 different types of social work that we've talked about on this podcast, so that, students want to just hear all the different types of social work, including travel social work. They'll be able to listen to that. But me knowing that kids weren't my ministry allowed me, because that's the other thing, it allowed me to be like, okay, I paid into this profession, I've paid the money, I'm doing the internship, I know kids aren't my ministry, but here I am, I'm in social work, so what population do I enjoy working with? And for me, it's women. I enjoy working with women, in particular, empowering women, but kind of being able to weed out, figuring out, and that's where you are now. I think, Monica, you have done, I'm going back up to your you've done mental health, you've done foster care, you've done adoption, you've done the state health insurance. And now, though, you are currently the Alabama Cares coordinator at Central Alabama Aging Consortium, which I know is a big deal because you guys are doing amazing work. I met you at the event, the My Mama Joe event, and
Yes.
you graciously brought in 80. And by the way, I didn't even get a baggie, but you brought in like 80 goodie
We have to
bags.
get you.
Please, because I
Yes,
thought
yes,
about
we can do
that. I was
that.
like, oh my gosh, I didn't even get one. So I don't even know what was in them, but people were carrying them around and they were excited. And you had so much information to offer people. And so just tell us what does that mean? Alabama Cares Coordinator at Central Alabama Aging Consortium for our folks who may not know what that is.
Okay. So I'll start with the agency, then we'll trickle down to the title. Central Alabama Aging Consortium is one of 13 area agency on aging within the state. So we are under Alabama Department of Senior Services. Now, I must say, before I started working here, I had no idea this place existed. I thought anything dealt with the elderly was under DHR. Including Department of Senior Services. I had no idea that they were their own separate entity, commissioner, the whole shebang. So we are one of 13 within the state, and these 13 agencies, this is what we help with, the aging population. So most people think that we only deal with elderly, but if you notice in the name, it says aging, ing, which means if you are alive, you are listening to this podcast, you are alive, you are aging. Every day above ground, you are aging. So we actually help those of all ages from 0 to 100. So we help the aging. Our area is the River Region area. So we're here, Otaga, Elmore, Montgomery counties. And with my particular position, Alabama Cares Coordinator is a very unique program, as it is a caregivers program. And the caregiver is the client, not the person that they are caring for. So we provide the caregiver with temporary services. And I say temporary because it's not going to replace you in the home. But we are able to provide respite in and out of the home. I am able to contract with an out of the home adult daycare for those that have dementia. But also we provide supplemental that includes a life alert and incontinence supplies. And if you're dealing with a person and you have to buy bed pads, wipes, gloves, insure, boots, this program provides those things for them for free. Now it is limited, but it is a free program. They also receive case management services, education, counseling. And the education varies across the board because, again, these are caregivers. So it could be anything from reverse mortgages, advanced directives, financial information, buying a house, just an array of topics for the caregivers. And we provide these services for free. The other component of Alabama Cares is we have aging persons. So any person 55 and older that is raising children, because again, we're aging, right? The ing currently. For any person 55 and older that are raising children that are not theirs, biologically theirs. So it could be a grandparent, step great grandparent, an aunt, a cousin. If you are raising children, you also qualify for the program. And the good thing is they stay on the program until the child is 18. They do not have to have legal custody. They don't have to be blood related. As long as you are raising this child or children, each one stay on the program until they turn 18 and they age out. Now, their services are a little different because now we're talking about children. Their recipe is going to be camp. They're going to be a home health agency coming in. It's going to be a camp. So art, baseball, football, whatever the case may be, or just a minor summer camp. Their supplemental may not be incontinence supplies. It's going to be, oh, the kid is playing baseball, but we'll buy the bat and cleats. So it varies. And of course, I do have a budget, so it's not unlimited, but we are able to provide these things. I think one of the highlights of the program is that we were able to receive COVID money. And with that money, I was able to purchase any child on the program that needed it, a Chromebook or a laptop, because remember, all the kids went home for distant learning, well, online learning. So we were able to get those for all the kids that needed them.
Monica, I promise you, I've been a social worker in Alabama for 26 years. I truly assumed it was for the elderly. I had no idea.
My youngest caregiver at one time on the program was 22.
Wow. But
Because
she was raising children that weren't.
well, she was 22. She was helping with her mother.
And she's a caregiver.
She was a caregiver.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one I didn't know, and I'm so glad I asked that question because that wasn't one of our questions. So I'm so glad I asked that question. One, because I think other social workers need to know that, but also in meeting all of you that I got to meet, in this process of being in the dementia and Alzheimer's space, and doing the My Mama Joe film screening in May. One of the things that I'm learning over and over and over is there's a lot of focus on people who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or other related dementias, and we have to have a focus on the caregivers. And Alabama Aging Consortium is saying we do have a focus on caregivers.
But you know what? Here's the thing, Renita. With Alabama Cares, it doesn't matter what your diagnosis is.
Wow.
So you can have a traumatic brain injury. It could be a stroke. It could be cancer. You could still qualify. I said it before. One of the unique things about this program is that the caregiver is the client. Here's the other thing. It's not income based. Alabama Cares is needs based. So a person's income could be $10,000 a month. They still can qualify for the program. They may not be a priority, and that's a policy. That is not mine. That is a policy. But they still qualify. And I know sometimes, like I just said, I said $10,000. Yeah, that is a lot of money, right? But I know caregivers who paid for 24/7 skilled nursing care. $10,000 was gone because they were paying a nurse to come in for inpatient 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, because they wanted to keep that person home. So again, yes, that is compared to some persons who get $800, yes, but also they were spending over $10,000 a month for their care.
And this is such an appropriate name, Alabama Cares.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama actually cares. One, by funding this particular program, by having such an amazing person like you, running it. And then, we care. We don't care what your income is. We don't care what your race is. We don't care. We just care that you have a need and we want to be able to help you out with that need. Yeah.
Like I can have a caregiver. And here's another unique thing about this program. I can have a caregiver here in one of my counties, Autauga County. If their loved one is in Tallapoosa County, they still can apply. As long as they're providing 20 hours a week, what happens is the coordinator, because that is a different county outside of my area, we both discuss who's better suited to take on the client. So as long as the caregiver lives within this state, they can apply. We just ask that the caregiver applies within their particular county.
Yeah. And I love even hearing that the other 13 or maybe 12 other Alabama care programs, y'all are talking to each other and working with each other. And so how long have you been doing this work, Monica?
So I just made 11 years with the agency last month.
Congratulations.
I've been in the CARES coordinator now, I think about 9 years. I initially came on board with the agency as the ombudsman, which is the advocate in the long-term care assistant and assistant living homes. And then I came over to, I'm still certified, so I still go out on cases when needed, but primarily I'm just Alabama Cares.
You know what? I'm taking this discussion in a different direction. Okay. One of the I talk to clients about ombudsmanship. And they don't know what that is. I don't even think some of my social workers know what that is. Do you mind educating us on what that role is and why you have to be certified in it?
Okay, so ombudsman is the Swedish word for advocate, and they serve as an advocate in the nursing and assisted living home. So basically, they are supposed to be Switzerland. They can advocate for the resident. They can serve as mediators between the resident and staff, the resident and family and staff, and they try to find a happy medium. Now, again, going back to sociology, people are people. and not everyone is going to be happy, but that is the gist of it, that they serve as the advocates within the assisted living home. Now, here's the caveat to that. If you have a loved one within a long-term care assistant or nursing home and they leave and you still have a complaint, you can submit your complaint to the ombudsman, but you also have to submit it to public health, because the ombudsman client has to be in the facility, and that's a policy that they actually have to be in an actual facility in order for them to go in and say, okay, this is my client. Otherwise, it's just a general. They will still investigate, but it will be a general case as opposed to attached to a person.
Perfect. And I just want to make sure people understand that if they have a loved one in the nursing facility or an assistant facility and there is a complaint, maybe, you know, they feel like their person is being neglected, or, you know, even if someone stole food out of their personal
Yes.
refrigerator, you know, because I
Yes.
know that's a thing.
Yes.
I encourage people to go to the, I can't even say it, to someone like you.
Ombudsman, there should be posters
That's what I
in
say.
every
Yes.
facility with your ombudsman's name and
Right.
phone number. If you do not see a poster,
Mhm.
you call in the state of Alabama 1-800-AGE line. That is AGELINE. And you tell them the county, and they will put you in touch with the particular area agency on aging. But every facility in this state is supposed to have poster boards throughout the facility with their names, because it could be more than one depending on where you are, but the ombudsman's picture, their name with their contact information. And if they don't have that, we have a problem.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you have a complaint, you can go to, obviously we want to keep relationships solid. Go to your
Yes.
nursing home facility, the administrator there, even the social
Yes.
worker there. But if you still is not getting resolved, please reach out to
Yes.
your ombudsman.
I know it.
I still say
Advocate.
to your advocate. Yes. I love it though. I love that you guys are Switzerland. So, you know, Monica, moving on to our next question. What in your work do you feel like has been the most misunderstood aspect of aging in rural Alabama or even across America?
What I'm seeing now is not what I grew up with. We'll start with that. I'm from a very small town, 4 traffic lights to tell you how small it is. I know how many there are, right? Rural area. Family, community, somebody got sick, the community took care of that person. Now, especially in our rural area, we have I would say two major components. One is transportation, which is it's an issue across the board, but it's more so within the rural area. Second, they don't have the help, right? Because your community is not your community. And the people who grew up on this road have sold to someone else, and they're not coming out to make sure your trash is at the edge of the road. I knew a lady who had to pay somebody to take her trash can to the street and back. And for someone on a fixed income, that's a lot. So where's that community? And I say community could be anything. That could be your family, your friends, your church, your synagogue, whatever it may be. The community is not there, and that's what we're seeing. Transportation is a huge issue. Of course, you're in a rural area, so what's the likelihood of you even having public transportation, if any? So what we see is that a lot of people now, you know, they'll have to pay someone to take them on what's considered check day to go and run their errands, and that is paying their bills. Because now again, we have a certain group of elderly people that believe in checks, money orders. They're not paying online, so they may actually go into the utility place to pay their utility bill. Now you have to go to the grocery store, and you're paying someone to take you to all of these places. And this is what you need. This is what you have to maintain your livelihood. Then you turn around, now you have doctor's appointments. So you have to pay somebody to take you to a doctor's appointment, wait on you, and take you back home. And again, it goes to the community. It goes to, the lack of transportation. And we're seeing now, we call them a lot of caregivers will refer to as the sandwich generation. Sandwich meaning they're in the middle, right? They're taking care of their parents, they're taking care of themselves, they're taking care of their children, right? They're in the middle. Well, what happens when all your kids are moved away? And again, it's just going back to that lack of community, because if they are here, are they actually coming over to take care of you, or you feel like, okay, well, I have my family and mama and daddy need to do this and blah, blah, blah. Because what I grew up with is that when somebody got sick, everybody went to go do something. Well, somebody might have went on Monday, somebody else did Tuesday. This one's bringing you meals on Wednesday. This one's bringing you to the store. There was some type of camaraderie. It was community. It was familiar. We don't have that now. I mean, do you even know your neighbor? So let alone now you're saying, hey, come take me to the store or come take me to the bank. You don't even know who's living next door to you. So with the lack of that, it's a huge issue, and it's only growing. I mean, there's just so many issues in our rural area, and it's hard. The hospitals are far. You want to make sure you have the right insurance company, because if that insurance didn't negotiate with the hospital, now you have to go to a hospital further away. That's more money that you have to pay someone to take you and sit and wait on you and bring you back. But those I would say those are the two.
Mm-hmm. And those are big ones. And I'm wondering, I mean, it's a big issue, but have you seen any, or have you thought of any solutions or gaps that can be filled with all of that?
Well, in terms of transportation, so I would use Montgomery because that's the city where we're in. So they do have local transportation, but they don't go out into the rural areas. They also have something called paratransit, whereas if an elder person, I think it's like $4, maybe $8 round trip. They can actually arrange for someone to come and pick them up from their home, and they will take them to a doctor's appointment, and then we'll come back and pick them up. So it's $8, but still, cheaper than maybe paying an individual. Now, there are also county commissioners. I don't know if they want to pull together with the local transportation and say, hey, come out to my area. We can give you X amount of money and put a bus stop out there. And maybe and transportation, and it's not just Alabama, it's all across the nation. Transportation is just a huge issue. I've seen where other states, I think Georgia offers their seniors like a monthly pass for maybe like $40, and it's unlimited rides. The state of Tennessee ended up getting some money. I'm trying to think what happened because it's been some years back. But the gist of it is a nursing home had to pay back some federal dollars for something that they did. And what was created out of that was different grants. So a AAA, Area Agency on Aging in Tennessee, applied for it. They turned it into a transportation grant, and they reimbursed persons to transport their seniors in their area. And they were a very rural county. These are the mountains of Tennessee. And they even notated during it, because this was at a training, that they had people who didn't even submit for reimbursement. They just enjoyed doing it. Mm. So that was a way to, it did help, but also I wonder what happened when the funding ran out. It was a solution, but what's a long-term solution?
Was it sustainable? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love just putting solutions out there. And, the one that really stood out was the county commissioners. Going back to social workers, helping professionals, all of us need to be knowing and mindful of who are in these state and county seats. Who are they and how can we reach out to them? Because them asking for a bus stop in their county it could potentially save lives. And a lot of money. Yeah, it could save lives and money. Mike, I've so enjoyed our conversation, but we are getting to our last couple of questions as we run it down. But I'm going to go back to your quote by Shirley Chisholm. Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. I love that quote. Why do you believe in that, and why is that such an important quote for you?
I think we owe it. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to those around us to serve. On any level, any capacity. I'm not saying, hey, you could go out here and just change the world tomorrow. Maybe not. But you can do something. Everyone can do something. And I feel like our job is to plant the seeds of trees that we'll never see. And if we put this out here for other people, then the next generations get it. And whatever it is, your way to serve, whether you know what, hey, I'm gonna go to the nursing home one day a week and go visit, you would be surprised at what that would do for morale. And again, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just you doing it. But you, that one person, you can do that. Someone else can say, you know what, I'm gonna go and cut my neighbor's grass. I know, they can't do it. It's something. That is your way to serve. You are privileged to be here. You owe it to someone else to help someone.
I love that. And, I'm just even thinking about our code of ethics, like says that we are, it says that we are, or guides us to service work. Right. And even thinking about the, rural Alabama, or even like we said, even across America, trying to figure out how can we get our neighbors to the doctor's office without them having to pay half their checkout in order to go. If you're not willing to put somebody in your car, can you email your county commissioner and say, I know Miss Jones down the road is having a hard time getting to the doctor. Have we thought about what we can do? So it doesn't have to be the exact service of, I'm not going to put Miss Jones in my car, but I can email or call the county commissioner at least once a week to let them know that Miss Jones exists, right? And that is our service. And service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. I've never heard that quote, but I love it. I'm going to be using it all the time now. I love that. And Monica, as we wrap up, I'm just curious, are there any final words of wisdom or advice you would like to leave our audience with today?
I do. I would like to just quote Rosalind Carter, former First Lady, something that she said, and something that we, as all the CARES coordinators, that we all utilize, and we often quote it. And there are the different types of people. And those are those who were caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who are going to be caregivers, and those who are going to need caregivers. So those are your different types of people. At some point in life, you're going to be a caregiver. You're going to need one, you're going to be one.
So how are you showing up?
Right.
And combining that with Shirley Chisholm, how are you showing up? You believe in some strong women, don't you? You got that energy all around you. Shirley Chisholm, Alicia Rashad, and now First Lady Carter. Come on through with the strong women. I love it. Monica, it's been such an honor having you on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I hope you'll come back again and tell us more about all the things that you're doing. But I especially appreciate how you educated us today. I think this has been one of the more educational, resource-driven podcast episodes I've had, with the Ombudsman advocate, with the learning about what the Alabama Aging Consortium is and Alabama Cares. I promise I didn't know, but
most people don't.
Yeah.
And it's back to educating the person. So I will say this: if you ever need us at Central Alabama Aging, we come. It doesn't matter how big or how small, weekend and weekday, just call us.
And I know that to be true because I had not ever met Monica. I said, we're having an event, and she brought 80 goodie bags and helped me with the registration table. And for that, yes.
We get in where we fit in.
Yes. And for that, I'm forever, forever grateful. But thank you so much again today for giving so much of your time and coming on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. And we'll see you next time, guys.
All right. Thank you for making it easy.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. We are glad you were here. If you liked this episode, please come back to hear more stories of the journeys through social work, and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. See you next time here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.